You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your host, Thomas Ahrens. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Fishing the DMV. I'm your host, Thomas Ahrens. And today I have a really special guest. I have on Rick Hawkins of Roanoke, Virginia. He just won the BFL Super Tournament on the title Potomac, but we're going to get to that eventually because this man has pretty much done it all in the fishing industry, and we have a lot of fun stories to tell. Sir, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I appreciate you having me.
So, yeah, as always with guests I have on the show the first time, like what got you into fishing?
Well, I got started. My dad used to carry me trout fishing when I was real little. I mean, little, and he dragged me along. And I always liked playing in the river and that sort of thing. And we kind of graduated a little bit to the smallmouth fishing in the rivers. And a friend of mine lived 4 houses from me, still my favorite fishing partner of all time. We still try to fish at least one day a month now. His father gave me my first Bassmasters, and I started reading it. It's one of the very first ones, and it had an article in there on how to make rubber worms, and he got me hooked, and he gave me a spinnerbait, a Zorro spinnerbait, and I talked my mother in to take me to the city reservoir. The Final Four was on. My dad didn't want to go. He wanted to watch basketball, so she carried me out there. He told me just to throw it around the bushes, and I had it on a spinning rod and a spinning reel. And the second bush I came to, I caught a 5-pounder. And that about did it. Then everything, no other fish existed in my mind again. I was straight bass. That's how I got started.
How did you get into the industry back then?
Well, I started fishing heavy, just pecking around fishing ponds, this and that. And I was 15, 16 years old, and a friend of mine had a boat, and he asked me if I would fish, wanted to fish a tournament. And so we went fishing, and I was 15 was my first tournament, and we zeroed the first tournament. There again, I was hooked. And I went on to college, and I went to college playing baseball. And I was playing at Ferrum College, and we had a Philpott Lake close. Well, when I wasn't playing ball, I was on the side of that bank fishing or going with somebody, whoever I could get to take me. At that point, I decided I would just get a associate's degree. So I went to work cutting wood, and I raised enough to buy. A guy had a Ranger, an old Ranger 175A with an 85 horsepower Johnson Javelin on it. I raised enough money to buy that motor, and then I went on with it. Within a year, I was winning everything in the area. And I went back to school and got my education, kept fishing, kept winning. In the meantime, I had talked to Ranger a little bit, about helping me out and getting me started. Well, I finished my education, and they asked me if I would be interested in going to California, a place that opened at North Hollywood Marine in Los Angeles. So I said, what the heck? So I just had gotten a job, a decent job out of college, left the job, packed the truck, the boat, and headed that way. Well, I didn't really realize the deal that I was getting into. Gary Klein had previously left Ranger. So Ranger didn't have a a young pro. Back then, the fishermen were older. I mean, their longevity in the sport is much longer than it is now. Most of those guys got the deals and they held on to them. Hank Parker, people like that, they got the Ranger deals. Well, when I got out there, Ranger offered me a special deal. I had to run 3 to 4 boat shows a year. And I got commissions for the sales. I got my entry fees paid, and I could fish the rest of the time. So that's what I did. And so I started out west, and I've never seen the place before. Started out west. I was I guess their pick to replace. They needed a young pro, but they also wanted a young pro that had some sales knowledge and some and education, because they wanted those shows run right. They were the number 1 dealer in the West. So I took my education combined with my fishing skills and put this deal together. And it's really one of the better deals that I've ever heard of. I got all equipment. I paid at 2 no boats a year. I got a 150 horsepower for the BASS, and then I had an unlimited horsepower boat for the Western Outdoor News Circuit.
And what year did you go out west?
1985.
1985. Wow. 150. That is crazy how things have changed since then. And that going from east to west like that, was it a big culture shock at all? Just like how the fishing community is out there compared to back here on the East Coast?
It was a culture shock inside of Los Angeles. I mean, I'd never had a Mexican dinner before. Honestly, I'm just country boy. Swirl and gravy. That's more up my alley. So when I went out there, it was very much a learning experience. It was great, especially at my age, and it opened so many things to me from a cultural standpoint. From a fishing standpoint, I took what I had and ran with it, and it worked. I carried a pop R out there. That's back when that P70 was kind of hush hush. I took a pop R and a crankbait, a Poe plug, a weighted DB3s, baits of that nature, and a lot of top water. And I pretty much did a good job. I jumped right in and competed good. I was runner-up to Yellis and Murray 3 different times for Angler of the Year.
Wow.
And this was over a 10-year period of time. So I was out there almost 10 years.
Was there any changes you had to do with some of the tactics that, going back on the skills that you had from fishing on the East Coast, going to the West, did you feel like you evolved a little bit while you were out there?
Oh, I definitely did. I had super teammates on both ends of the spectrum. I had one like Don Ivino. He's the doodle worm, deep fisherman, deep clear water, just fabulous deep fisherman. I got instructions from that side. On the other end, D. Thomas. I traveled with D. Thomas. I got to travel with him some. King of Flip, which was wonderful in itself. Some great, great days with him. He wouldn't let you bring spinning rod on his boat. He had all flipping sticks. There was no spinning reels back then. He was a pretty funny guy, but I got to learn that part. Got to learn flipping Clear Lake. That was pretty awesome. And I could keep going. There's so many people that I try to take it all and put it together, and that's what I've done. To this day, I'm still use the West Coast tactics here too.
What do you have a memory that sticks out to you from that time out west?
My fondest memory of all time was uh, taking Aaron Martins and his mother fishing the first time they ever went.
Wow.
And they, didn't know anything about the boat. Aaron was working on a little tackle shop in the valley, and his mother, they'd come to a couple boat shows, just sniffing around. Finally, she bought a 363 from North Hollywood Marine, and she had watched me and had been paying attention to me in the circuit, so she wanted me to take them out and show them how to use the boat. So that's what we did. We went out and started from scratch, taught them how to back it up and down the ramp. And we didn't do a whole lot of fishing that day. We did more, boat education, getting them comfortable. And that was probably the biggest memory. And you can understand why.
It's crazy, those moments in time where you don't necessarily understand the gravity of the situation until years later, and you can look back on it.
Yeah, his mother, followed me pretty close, and then when he started to get older, and I was getting ready to come back home, she was asking me, is it time for him to turn pro? Well, I thought that was very admirable that she would ask me that question and I would have anything to do with it. And I told her, of course. And the reason being, him and his mother had been winning the team circuits all over Southern California, toughest team circuit in the country. They were just dominating. And I said, he's been taught well and it's time for him to go. So I think that would probably sticks out as the most memorable thing.
It's crazy because like out west just feels like a foreign world, especially since there's not a lot of major circuits on the East Coast that go there anymore. Some of those fisheries now are just absolute legendary. How would you stack those fisheries up compared to the ones that we're familiar with out east when it comes to just not only quality, but what it can teach you?
Well, the Clear Lakes, Clear Lakes is more like a Santee Cooper type situation. Then you get to Lake Mead and Lake Powell. You could kind of compare that somewhat to the Great Lakes because they're so big and so windy. Oh, terrible rough water.
Really?
Some of the terrible rough water. I think that there are comparisons there, but the West is just just like the old saying, the Wild Wild West. It's what it always will be. Lake Havasu, of course, has a personality of its own, and a very beautiful place. Good for the bones, I'll tell you that. Nice and warm.
When did you head back east? What year?
1993, I think. 93, 94.
Okay. And did you head back to Virginia to set up shop again?
Yes. I got involved in a Hollywood divorce, and it was a highly publicized Hollywood divorce. And I had come to the point where, do I keep fishing or what do I do? And at that time, I was qualified or on the way to qualifying. I hadn't qualified yet, but it looked like I was going to for the Classic. And I was ranked second in Western Outdoor News. And I had to face reality, like I was going to be a single father. And I brought my son back home. And I had to retire, basically early retirement, at the peak of my career to make sure my son was raised properly. So I moved back to Virginia to do that. So I left the boat in North Hollywood Marine. He would become like my second father. It was such a sad day. And I took the other boat to flip it, and I dropped it off on the way back across the country. Called it a great big day.
For people like myself that don't understand the term, when you say Hollywood divorce, does that you were dating a Hollywood celebrity, you were a Hollywood, what does that mean?
My wife was a Miss Virginia, 1983, and she went out to Hollywood when I did. She got an agent immediately, went to work immediately, got a sitcom immediately, and life was good. I was fishing, and she was doing the Hollywood thing, and then Hollywood got involved, and with I'm not going to sit here. I don't want to sit here and bash my ex-wife or anything like
No,
that.
no.
But it was she was her career was going so good, and then it wasn't. After we had our son, and it got to the point where I had to put my foot down, and I got my son and brought him home, which resulted in a serious divorce. And the divorce was it was in the Inquirer 4 or 5 times.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was embarrassing, so embarrassing. So when I came back, the last thing on my mind, which was the first thing on my mind, was fishing. And then I had to completely leave it. And it's probably the hardest thing I ever did.
I mean, they say Hollywood is just not a place to raise kids, and that culture there is just insane. Like, and I think for a lot of people that haven't been involved in it like you have, they can't understand or appreciate it fully.
It's a monster that'll eat you up. And, I saw it happen, and she was a very talented lady, probably one of the most talented ladies to ever come out of Virginia. And it got the best of her, and I had to make a parental decision to leave fishing and raise my son. And I'd do it again in a second. So
when you came back east then, and you sold everything, like, where was fishing in your life? You said, and rightfully so, it wasn't the main priority, raising your son was. Did you just not fish anymore for a period of time? Did you still dabble in it when you could? Like, what was your relationship with fishing in those years?
Well, I couldn't completely walk away. I bought an old Ranger 350 from a buddy of mine. And I had bought, when I went back, I had bought a place on Smith Mountain Lake, Brandywine Acres, right across from R38 on the Roanoke River, if anybody's familiar with that. And beautiful place. And with all this divorce and everything, when it went down, I lost my farm. But I kept a boat the whole time, somehow or another, just to escape, to be able to escape. And also, I started taking, I basically mentored Ed Lochran and John Cruz on the Elite Series. And they started fishing with me when I was 14. So that kind of gave me an outlet on the side, to help them and fish. And I picked up some team tournaments, and I fished right many BFLs, but I was just fishing for the fun of it. I wasn't fishing serious. It was more of a party to me, a getaway. I loved to drink my beer, etc. And all, it was a different time in my life. I felt like, I used to be a pro fisherman, and pretty good one. But, I had to man up and be a daddy. So at the same time, I had enough time to, still participate. And like I say, I had two fine products that came out of it, Ed Lochran and John Cruz. So
what was that like, mentoring back then?
Well, both of those young men, they caught on so fast that it was almost a pleasure just to get in the boat with them, because not only were they gung ho, they could they could fish. I mean, they caught on quickly and immediately. Both of them caught their first limits with me.
Oh, cool.
I remember both days that happened, and I just, that kept me going from a fishing standpoint. And what happened was, they knew I wanted to keep fishing, and so Ed and John got together, and they found a bass cat beat up, and they got it out for me. Said, "All right, you're going fishing again." And my son, I'd raised my son. He's 18. He's going on to college, and so I started fishing again. I quit drinking beer and bourbon, and went back to college and took some computer classes because
Really?
I was completely computer illiterate, and I knew I was going to have to jump into the electronics I had no clue on. So this was 19. That's what I guess I'm 66. It's been 16 years ago, I guess. And so I started fishing back. They got me fishing, and I've had a few pretty good moments. I missed the Elite Series. John put me out there in the Elite Series. Got a new bass cat, and I ran it. And the second year, I missed it by 15 points. Had a car wreck. Sitting at a stoplight, a guy hit me. I had my boat packed to go to the BFL regional in Hartwell, and it was at my mother's house. But I kept my wife's credit card accidentally, so I was driving her credit card back to work, and on the way I got hit, and it tore my shoulder up, right shoulder, messed me up pretty bad. I didn't know if I'd be able to fish again, so I rehabbed it back, learned how to cast a little bit different, and come back and I'm fishing again. So.
What year was that?
Let's see. I guess I'm 10 years ago.
10 years ago? Damn.
Yeah. So now I get my routine is to continue to fish. I get 2 shots in my shoulders, 2 shots in my knees, and 1 shot in my right ball joint every 3 months.
You sound like Aaron Rodgers with the amount of injections that you're getting. Good Lord, man. That's wild.
Yeah. That's to keep fishing, keep doing what I love. Like, I'm trying to make the Classic because I was qualified for it when I quit. So, I'm trying to sneak in there and grab one. Out of all this, I figured I should at least make 1 Classic.
Oh, you're on your way, dude. You're young. You got plenty of time left to make a Classic. It's funny because where you grew up, it's next to, I think, the youngest man-made lake of its size in Virginia, which is Smith. How much has Smith Mountain Lake evolved over the years?
Well, I got to fish it where there were no boat docks.
Whoa.
I've got to watch it grow. And it's Smith Mountain has been very good to me. When I was a young man, I just tore it up. And my partner and I, we fished back when I fished partner tournaments. We won like 13 out of 14 in a row. I mean, we dominated. And that is the lake was growing, and they were running current then. Totally different lake. They switched the deal at the dam, and now they pump back, and that's changed. That's one big deal. But I will say this: it is the best fishery in the state of Virginia, bar none.
So, Aaron Martin's mom introduced you to Aaron Martin and them. How did you become a mentor to Ed and John?
Well, it happened before John. He is older than John, of course. Ed was fishing. He was 14. We were fishing a Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina pro circuit.
Okay.
right? And this was before I left to go to California. He was 14. We were fishing on Kerr, and he got hooked in the ear or something like that when his partner hooked him in the ear, and he had to go to the hospital. Anyway, I just had bought the boat I was in, and first time out, and I was taken out. I was running from Satterwhite to Rudge Creek, and I got about 100 yards from the boat and blew the engine.
Oh.
All right. So I had to fish around Satterwhite for the rest of the day. This is in April, which I didn't really mind. You know, I just hated I just blew the engine. So started fishing, and I just worked on them real. I told you back then I could catch a fish in just about any situation. God was good to me. Anyhow, I come in, I doubled the field's weight. The closest person had 12 pounds. I had 24. And Ed saw that and went back and told his mom. Well, Ed's father didn't do a whole lot of that kind of thing with him. And so it's what he liked. And his mother was a really sweet lady. And they lived in Maryland. And he asked me if I wanted to come and stay at his house. And I said, sure. So I did, and met his mom. And his mom asked me if I would carry him with me and look after him, because she didn't know anybody else who would do that, could do that. And I did. So I took him with me. And, back then, fishing was a different ball game. I mean, it was, you had a lot of, it wasn't quite as professional as it is now, as far as, everything's perfect. It's a lot of wild guys and stuff involved. So, I had to take him under my wing, and he got to see fishing from a pretty raw early standpoint. And there again, he caught right on. He happened to draw me in one of these tournaments, which was wild. That was the first day he caught his limit.
Really?
Yes. And then he started going with me, all the time. And when I went out west, he flew out west, and I picked him up in Vegas. Picked the Ed up in Vegas. Yeah, it's pretty wild. But here comes little Ed to Vegas. He's 18 years old, I guess. And then he fished with me out there and got to see that part. And he came back, and, he started doing really well locally. Well, he realized, that finance is everything in this sport.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when he decided, to go get his law degree and all that sort of thing and become a man. And in the meantime, we still kept fishing here and there. John, as far as John goes, when I came back from California, right when I came back, a mutual friend of his and mine brought him to the house. Comes to find out that his grandfather was involved, worked with my father on the railroad, and was involved in the baseball and everything for me and my brother when we were growing up. He took me to Baltimore scout camp. I mean, that sort of thing. Well, that's John's granddad. Well, we found that out, which is, small world. And
It's crazy.
He asked his dad. That's when I had the place on the lake before I lost it in the divorce. And he came down, and his father came down. The father's a hands-on guy. I mean, he's no play to him. nice man, but he'd want to make sure before he turned his son loose for somebody that they checked his boxes, and there were a lot of boxes. That's just the way he is. And next thing you know, John's fishing with me, and he decided he was going to fish, and he was going to Roanoke making two, after he got older. So I started him at 14. He ended up keep fishing with me during college, and he started, got out on the Red Man circuit, started doing good, and then he switched over. So that's how they started with me.
When you have two people like that you mentor that go on to have extremely successful careers and multiple things in the fishing industry, you witness that, and then you try to take a bite at the apple again. What was that like, you taking that next bite at the apple, especially with Ed and John really pushing you to do so?
It was different than it was before. I had to learn how to fish again. Things had changed. I mean, drastically. Like I'll bring the electronics up again. This has, been, 15 years ago. So the electronics, then we're getting into the side scan and things like that. We weren't to the face forward part yet. It was a challenge. It was aggravating too. It took a while. Finally, a few things started clicking where I could take what I knew before and combine it with the new way, like the new way of the bait fish. I mean, herring, the alewives, just weren't gizzard shad and threadfin shad up on, it's everything changed. The bait fish changed.
Like at Smith Mountain Lake.
Yeah.
For example. Yeah.
I mean, it's, but it changed really everywhere. So you had to, fish different. Fish were more educated, I think. And it took a while, and then it started clicking again. So I'm fishing pretty good now.
Was the decision to go back to school for computer stuff, was that a life thing, a fishing thing? Like, what really was the impetus for that?
Well, I mean, I had 2 degrees, but back then we didn't have, the computer was not really a factor then in getting your education. You had some computer science courses. That's about it in college. It was, I was tired of being illiterate on the computer, so it helped me in life too. As far as figuring the phones out and everything else. It's I'm still not too swift on it, but I can work a computer pretty good now.
Was there any benefits to the technology that you saw when you take that time off really from the high end of fishing, and then you try to get back into it and you see some of not just the techniques, of course, we talk about, but like the technology thing? Was there anything that you felt like made your life easier or opened your eyes to different perspective when it came to fishing?
I don't think it was easier. I think it was harder. And another thing, the influx of the youth into the sport.
Yeah.
I mean, a heavy influx. Nothing like when I was fishing before. I was in the South. Mike Reynolds was in the North. That was the Rangers, 2 youngsters, 2 young guys that they had put their stake in. And, that I was the youngest guy. I mean, it wasn't anybody else but me. Everybody else was, older. I mean, Larry Hopper, Mike Folkstead, Don Ivino, I could keep going. Then it's changed. It's changed. The advertising I don't blame them either, because, they got to sell product. You got a youngster coming up out of college, sharp looking kid, speaks well, catches fish, looks good. That's your guy right there for the promotion. And I will say this, in all the years that I have been sponsored or not sponsored, if you can't sell product, you shouldn't be asking for product.
Yeah.
You got to be able to sell it. And if
Mhm.
if you do not have the value, the selling value, then, you see these guys, they want this free, that free, this free. Fine, it's nice, but what are you doing to get that free? Well, when I was out west, I was selling boats. I was rocking, when I was when I wasn't fishing, I was on the phone selling a boat. Plus, I was doing well and representing the product properly. So, I think that's a big issue.
I forgot to ask you this earlier in the conversation. What were boats selling for in the 90s?
You could get, when they do the classics, they do the Western classics, the All Americans, and you'd have the boats, the leftover 350s, 354s, whatever they have. You could pick one of them up in the mid 20s, low 20s.
Oh my God. Oh, I'd like a time machine. Oh, wow. That's wild.
That's, you brought that up, the price of things, my goodness, have just gone out of the world.
It's sad because like a basic truck, like, my dad does landscaping, his landscaping company and stuff. And it's like, if you want a basic work truck, they don't exist. Everything has a computer in it. You can't just get a basic truck anymore. And it's crazy, man. When you look at trucks and boats, like how much it's jumped from your lifetime to 2025. It's wild.
Well, I can sit here and, talk about my beautiful bass boat sitting outside and my fine truck I'm driving, but I don't have either. I got a 2001 Ram. I love it to death. It's got 250,000 miles on it. My Bass Cat, it's a 98 hole, 98. Got 56 gallons in it. I love it. I can go through some of the roughest water there is. It looks like crap. I lost the rub rail somewhere on Oneida. I hadn't replaced it. I got a mud line on it. I wash it once a year.
Character. That's what that's called. It's called character.
No, they still work. That's what I'm saying. And in my electronics, I'm not even going to tell you what they are, but they work too.
Technology is crazy with it, but you can still, a couple of friends of mine that are river rats on the Potomac River, they call it just caveman fishing. And there are still places you can do that with, the topic that really hit home with you the past couple of weeks is the Potomac River and caveman fishing and that kind of style. Just to set it up for you, what's your history on the Potomac River leading into this BFL Super event?
Well, when I was young, when I was here before, I won the Maryland, Virginia Angler of the Year twice. And that was all tidal water, basically, except for Kerr and Gaston. So I could rock on this place, and I had no problem. And I love to go to places people wouldn't go. I remember got stuck in Nanjemoy. The tournament was out of Aquia. Got stuck in Nanjemoy. The Coast Guard made me wait to follow them back across.
Really?
Yeah, they were. I didn't win the tournament because I was late. They would not let me go back across. It was so rough. When I came across the first time, it broke my backseaters, broke his glasses and cut his nose real bad on the ride over in the waves. But that's the way I used to be, So that anyway, getting to the Potomac, I could catch them. And when I came back, this has really been a thorn in my side. I mean to tell you. So I've had many conversations with myself driving home, like, what in the world you got to do to catch fish here? Well, a couple years ago, I put go back and do fish like you used to fish, and slow down. Well, I'll give you an example. In the spring, a slider head. I went back to a slider head, started jacking them, and that's, started getting a little more confidence. Then when I was up here, up on the Potomac, I would take extra time after I'd get beat so bad and go back out the next day and see what I could find new or whatever. And so it started to come together in the past 3 years that I've been able to start competing again on the Potomac River.
What clicked for you, you think, when it came to the Potomac River?
Well,
confidence.
Yeah, confidence in not getting so many bites, and not sitting there and catching them till your arm falls off and they're, they barely keep, or they don't make the thing. You keep catching them. What are you doing there? What are you sitting there for? That's not going to do you any good. I started looking for bigger fish, and to do that, you usually have to slow down and fish a little deeper and that sort of thing.
Would you consider your style like, are you grass or hardcover if you had to categorize it?
Hardcover. But I like grass too. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, I could fish both of them. But if you had to put me in the perfect scenario, I'd have 3 crankbait rods on the front deck, and they would go from a DT14 to probably that 25-foot plug that 6 cents makes. And I'd roll with it. At this age, I'd run it, and I'd run it all day.
That's hardcore. That's really hardcore.
And that's how I would fish it. I'd set I'd just have the electronics on to see the depth and to get the line up, and that would be it. When I wouldn't take the time to look for anything. I'd put the bait on the spot, and if he bites it, he doesn't. He does. If he doesn't, he doesn't.
Why do you feel more comfortable with that versus doing the age-old, like dragging a Cinco or a chatterbait in the grass, like every person does on the Potomac?
Well,
it seems like
I would do that. This is not necessarily Potomac. You asked me overall.
Oh yeah, overall, but yeah, like towards the Potomac, I guess. Yeah,
on the Potomac. On the Potomac, you have to throw a Cinco if you want to be competitive. You have to throw a chatterbait unless you're stupid, But there are, you can catch them other ways. It just really depends the time of the season. In the spring, I prefer to fish the grass. I will say that.
Yeah, and that's just interesting because I do feel like people, when it comes to just the Potomac in general, it's hard to find people that are both. They'll run hardcover and they'll do grass. You find people as they evolve and mature, especially the local riverettes. You have these guys just fish grass, these guys just milk run and chase hardcover, and depending on the year and how the grass beds do, like both can be very, very effective. The Potomac's gone through a lot of changes, though. I mean, it just feels like, as more of a local, the grass just hasn't been what it used to be. And I've tried to fight that it's not just me getting older, reminiscing on when the grass used to be really good there. But it seems like if you talk to a lot of people, it's like the grass is dying off upriver, apparently, which is not good to see.
I remember going upriver. The ramp, I remember specifically. The ramp up at the airport.
Reagan. Yep.
Anyway, we put in there, and the river was full of grass, and it was beautiful. It was prettier up there because it was just clearer up there. I mean, it was just beautiful grass. And I was running across one of those beautiful grass beds, and I threw a blade on a prop, and it was a Friday afternoon, and we had the meeting like we used to have Uh, and, I was afraid I wasn't going to make the meeting because I was stuck in D.C. and all that traffic with a prop that has one blade. So when I went out, I sat down right in the middle of that giant grass bed, and the water was low. So I just remember how beautiful the grass was in that situation. But that's where the last time that I can remember. One other time that I can remember the grass being so full and so beautiful was in the mouth of Broad Creek on the river line. It had grown all the way out to the river line, and it was just beautiful. And the fish were, you'd just find out what part of that little front of the Broad Creek area where those fish were. That grass was phenomenal. As pretty as any grass you'd ever see anywhere.
Man, I remember when Broad Creek used to be good too. That's I remember when Piscataway used to be like on fire. Like it was the place to be, especially in the springtime. And then the grass. I mean, Jason Christie, a long time ago, man, he caught like 30 pounds out of there for like the day 4 of an Elite Series event when there used to be like really good grass in there. But yeah, I don't know. That's another episode. I need to get some river keepers on to talk about that specifically. Circling back to your tournament. Going into it practice wise, did you feel like you found something special, or did it just start to develop during the tournament?
Well, I could only fish 2 days and practice 2 days. My wife had fallen earlier in the year and broke both of her legs.
Oh no.
Yeah. So that happened it happened on July 1st, before the James River tournament. So I didn't get any time on the James. And I was sitting in pretty good position for Angler of the Year. I don't know if I could have beat that lucky kid or not as good as he was, but I'd have been close. I drove overnight to fish the James River tournament because she was in rehab. She came out of rehab. I had, full responsibility of her 24/7. So I didn't really know if I was going to be able to come and fish. Well, she had rehabbed really well, and she's doing a lot better. So her daughter came and stayed with her, and I got to fish 2 days. First 2 days I fished in a long time. So I thought to myself, just think about all the years and go back and, what's worked for you the best in the fall? Well, the best in the fall has been from Mattawoman north. And I looked at the tide. The tide was right for it. And that was a big issue, is the tide was right for it. So I started in practice. It was really windy. And I finally got 2 bites. Well, one was a 4 and one was a 5. And I went, well, this is worth it. This is going to be.
That's the right stuff.
I can get 5, bites. And so what I'm saying is I go north. And typically when I was growing up and everything on the river here, I went north. It didn't matter. I went north. So I went north and stopped on a couple spots. And I had spots from Mattawoman and Occoquan. I can run the whole river all the way to DC if I want to, and fish the fall spots. That's what I call them. And
did you want to work close and work your way farther away, or did you start farther away and work your way back strategy wise?
I usually like to get out of Mattawoman to begin with. We've got all the boat traffic, because a couple of the banks that I'm talking about are right there at near the marina. I'll try to come back in a little early in the evening and hit it before the flux of the tournament boats start coming back in. I usually I'll run. Sometimes I'll run into Occoquan, and other times I won't. just depending. I varied it both days. I kind of switched it around. The wind changed on me. Some of the places I fished, I couldn't fish because of the wind, and mostly everything that I was fishing was wind vulnerable.
And again, not to give anything away, what were you focusing more on, grass or hardcover?
Hardcover.
So more to your crankbait. It's interesting because it's always we fall back on what we enjoy or what we're good at. Isn't that crazy? No matter where we go, we figure out a way to make it work, for us.
Well, you know, you got to understand the fall fishing, and I've been fishing in a lot of places. Usually in the fall, you know, you're going to have some type of shad migration starting, especially with all the cool nights. You have to remember we had the water temperature dropped 10 degrees, so that right there, that kind of made me want to go faster, you know, up there.
Do you know Goldie?
No, I do not.
He's a local crankbait maker up here, and he talks about the shad migration too. Just rung a bell to me because people don't think about the shad migration necessarily on the Potomac, which is funny because it's there.
It's so important, and if you don't play it, I mean, you gotta play it, and it's usually better when it gets colder, you know. But it'll start, you know, they'll start moving when all of a sudden the water just goes, you know, from 80 degrees to 70. And you know, their little minds are going, hey, fall is here, you know, it's time to move.
So day one, you had over 15 pounds. I think it was like 15 pounds, 12 ounces.
Right.
Did you have a moment in that day where you just thought to yourself, like, something's clicking together?
Yeah, I did. When I got the fourth bite, you know, I had done this same thing before, and I'd caught 3 fish a day. What I ended up doing, catching 3 fish a day and not having the extra 2. When I caught the fourth one, well, I've got a chance here because, you know, they were pretty good sized fish. And then when I caught the 5th one, I knew I was in good shape. Yeah, you know. And I'm telling you, that's all the bites I got. I missed the second day of the tournament. I got 7 bites. I lost one beside the boat that would have culled big time. He was a good one. And had the jig in his mouth and just opened his mouth. And he wasn't hooked. I've had it happen before. And just opened his mouth and the jig popped out right, getting ready to net him. That would have added another pound and a quarter probably to my stringer. But that's the only fish that I lost. I caught one more, and I caught it on a drop shot, and I ended up culling it. I culled it out.
What's your jig setup?
Well, I fish a missile jig. Usually on hardcover. I'll fish. I've got, let's see, the mini flip jig here in the green pumpkin. This is a 3/8 size. When the current's running hard, I use the 3/8. Current's not, I'll use a quarter. A lot of people use heavier jigs. I like to see the jig be more natural if possible. The daggone wind was so hideous. I kept a 3/8 in my hand most of the time. I didn't get to use a quarter like I normally would. I use green pumpkin on green pumpkin. I vary the trailers. Sometimes I'll use a D-Bomb Junior, baby D-Bomb. Let me see if I have one right here, so to speak, like that, so to speak.
Oh, move it that way. There we go. Perfect.
Sorry.
Okay.
Anyway, all right. Or I'll use a Yamamoto double tail trailer. That works good too, especially when it gets colder. And just you want the jig to fall. You don't want the this time of year. You want it to kind of fall in a little faster, so you don't want a lot dragging behind it. Matter of fact,
braid, mono, or fluorocarbon? Braid. Okay.
I'm fishing on medium heavy loose speed spool rods, speed spin rods, whatever. They have the cork handle. They're pretty stiff. Yeah, they'll set the hook really well. And you can keep when you're fishing that current on the spinning reel, you can reel as you're moving the bait. It's easier to do, easier for it to look natural. Then sometimes I'll use the football, the mini football jig. If I'm in heavy rock, that jig doesn't do very well in wood, but it does real good in rock. But I stay with that same size, 1/4 and 3/8, in that same color. I like it drab.
And that's crazy with a straight braid.
No, not straight braid, straight braid to fluorocarbon.
Fluorocarbon for that one.
Yeah.
So
yeah. For all the jigs, I was throwing 16-pound test leader.
You have a lot of courage in your knot tying abilities. Good Lord. I don't know if I would have the guts to be able to trust a leader knot with that.
Yeah, 16 to 15.
And it's crazy with that setup that they can somehow still throw a jig. You know, whether it's a leader. I had a guy that Sinclair, who won the James River BFL a month ago, and he talked about that he's smoked him on braid and somehow they still spit it. And it's just crazy. It's like, how the heck does that happen? But it still does.
Well, they close their mouth on it, and the hook is just not can't get in the lid of the mouth. The ones that I caught, I had to dig the hooks out, you know.
Really?
So, I mean, they ate it good. This one ate it good too. Had it in its mouth. All the way, fought all the way in, and then, you know, opened his mouth and it popped right out. So,
what? Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'm finished.
Why a jig versus like a shaky head? Confidence?
Well, I was just getting ready to say my backups in this situation, and I did throw them. I got the magic worm. I'm drop shotting the magic worm, and I'm putting it on a shaky head. This is the one. This June bug dream is the color of it. I always like this color worm on the Potomac.
Mm-hmm.
And I use that on the shaky head. And then the sox plug color here, that's what I've been drop shotting, and they've been eating it. I mean, eating it. The difference in the two baits, those two baits and the jig is your fish 90% of the time is going to be bigger.
Don't know why, but that's true. It's always been true and always will be true.
If I'm trying to get a fish, if I'm struggling and I need a bite, then I'll go back to the shaky head, usually.
Did you feel like that during the tournament? Like, oh, I got to like dial in with a drop shot at some point? Or was that like, I mean, that's really got to get back to like the day and stuff, but what were your bites like by the end of day one? Was it tough to get that fifth one?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it took me all day. It's just, it's kind of like Rick Clunn. I always remember this. Clunn said, you're on them. A lot of people don't realize they're on fish, but if I can get a bite an hour, I'm on them. And so that's what I'm trying to get a bite an hour. Well, I got a bite an hour the second day. First day, I didn't quite get that. But, you know, the fish, all the fish come out of 10 foot of water.
10 foot of water or less, or 10 foot of water on the dot?
10 foot in that area.
So a few people would think you're crazy for saying 10 feet on the Potomac is like the ocean. That's crazy.
It is. But if you just look around, if you sit there, you sit at the dock, you just sit at the dock at Mattawoman and just look out there and say, well, I mean, roll your head from one side to the other. Well, I see 3 places here that are deeper than 10 foot. So just think about it that way. And, in some creeks you go into in the Potomac, you don't have 10 foot. But what you will have is you'll have 6 or 7 foot. There's your difference.
Why do you think the fish use that depth on tidal? Because I've grew up the old school mentality that the fish live in three feet of water on the dirt year round. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that's not necessarily true.
Right. Some of them do, but a lot of them don't. And there's some shad fish, they need somewhere to hold. They're waiting to eat. So they'll, find where they're holding. And then you catch one if you're lucky. Daggone, that's the way it was. Catch one if I was lucky. And I told everybody I was lucky, and I was very lucky.
So day one, you finish up. Again, for people that are just tuning into this thing when it airs, you had 15-12 day one. You go out day two. Where was your head at as you got to your first spot?
I get to my first spot. I went ahead and ran a little further north the second morning because the wind had changed. And I got to one spot, and, I just couldn't fish it. I fished for an hour, and I just couldn't fish it. It's just too much, and just no way to present the bait properly. You can't present the bait properly, you're wasting time. You can't feel the bait, you're just rolling the dice, basically. I didn't have a bite until 10 o'clock on the second morning.
Okay, where was your head at?
Well, I've been there, done that a lot of times.
I wish I had your confidence.
A lot more times I want to tell you. So I said, well, let's just switch sides. And I did, and it worked. That was pretty hard, wasn't it?
But that's that maturity that's needed to be successful, is to make those decisions and not listen to those wonderful voices that are in everyone's heads as the day clicks on and nothing's happening. To be like, I'm just going to go do this now, and not be stuck.
Well, the night before, I anticipated what was going to happen. So, instead of going out to dinner with everybody else and this and that, I stayed in, got me a Kentucky Fried Chicken pot pie, sat down, got my light out, I got a new map. It's pretty awesome. Laid the map out and drew where the wind was going to hit. So when I went to the first spot to try to fish it, I knew I was going to be fishing in the wind. And then in my brain, I said, okay, well, we can just rule this out. Let's go to where, let's run the areas that I'm least susceptible. And as the day went on, luckily the wind died a little bit, and I could fish. And I did come back to that first spot, and I caught my last fish. I caught my fifth fish, I should say.
All right. Backing up though, because we'll get to the end of the story here. Believe me, you get your first fish at 10.
I love to talk about it because I won.
Yeah, exactly. But it's to me, it's fascinating the mindset behind a victory or just a good finish and the little things that happen throughout the day. Because by 10 o'clock on day two, I would have been spinning my wheels out. You get your first bite, and you mentioned eloquently earlier, Rick Clunn, 1 an hour. Well, it's 10 o'clock and you got one. Were you stressing at all after you got that first bite?
Well, the one weighed 5 pounds.
Well, that helps.
Oh, I believe they're still there.
Oof.
Or around there.
So you get the 5-pounder in the boat. You got one, but it's a good one. When does your next one come?
About an hour later. And I catch 2.
Really?
Yeah, but I mean, they're in different spots, but I catch 2.
Pretty quick.
I caught one, and then I moved, and as soon as I moved, I caught another one. And I went,
Okay, gotcha.
and my back seater's going, that's number 3. He's kind of cheering me on, which I kind of like. I said, yeah. I said, dang on. So kept fishing, and then I hooked the other fish that opened his mouth and let the jig out. Said hello and gave me my jig back.
Oh God.
So that would have been 4. Now that kind of put a little dent in it right there. Made me feel a little funny there. I'm not going to act like I'm cool and Luke. That had a little effect on my emotion. I was going, you can't tell me I just lost the winning fish, So
That's the thought. We all get it in our heads when that happens. Like, this just lost me the tournament.
And then I kept fishing, and I caught another one, and so I had 4. So I looked out and I looked at the wind, and I looked across the river, and I went, well, I said, it looks a little better over there. Let's go see if I can catch a fish over there. And I did. I caught the 5th fish. And I think that was about at 2:45. I caught the 5th fish at about 1:30.
What was that feeling when you got that fish in the boat?
I just looked at him, and he looked at me, and he said, man, I was sweating that net. That's what he said. I said, I was sweating it too. And we got it in. I said, I believe that might do it. And he said, I believe he might do it. So where did I say I was going back to? I was going back to Mattawan at the end of the day. So I had my spots in there to fish. And my backseater had a spot he wanted to fish, and he had 2 fish, and he'd been so nice and helpful. And I said, well, we got a half an hour, 45 minutes here. What do you want to do? And he told me, and I just took him over there, and I just let him fish. And he ended up catching, I think he caught 4 or 5 those grass fish, the fish, that are, the 2-pounders, which he needed. So everybody was happy, and then we went to the weigh-in.
Was it your 5th fish, or was it starting the day with a 5-pounder? Which moment in the day did it start creeping in your head that I might have just done a thing? Like, this might be happening?
The 5th fish.
The 5th fish? Yeah.
I mean, anybody can weigh 1 5-pounder, but you got
yeah.
But, the size of the fish that I was catching, I mean, you could see, they were, I didn't weigh any of them. I mean, I'm not catching enough to weigh the fish, and I'm not one of those to sit down, take the time, look at the fish, pet him on the belly, kiss him and all that. I just catch him and throw him in the live well. And when I get 5, then I'll see about doing something. But in the meantime, until I have 5, and as hard as these things were to catch, I didn't want to miss a cast.
And this is a great little tie-in then. Well, let's finish off the story before I ask my question. So you get to the weigh-in. I mean, again, 17 pounds. I'll pull it up, guys. I have it in my notes here. 17 pounds, 9 ounces, 33.05 for the 2-day total, winning the Super Potomac of the Potomac. Where was your head at, dude? Where is it now?
I said it on the stage. This is about time, man. This is hard to come by. This place has been a thorn in my ass forever. And finally, I removed it. Finally, it's out. I mean, it's bugged me. Go down to James, do well. Go to Smith Mountain, do well. Go out on the Open Series, do fairly well most of the time, and come to Potomac and it's like I used to be dreading to even come up here, but in the past 3 years that's changed because I finally started to catch them again and figure them out.
And it sounds like you just started fishing also to your strengths and your style, which is, how many times do we hear that about how important that is as an angler? Is just keep to your strengths and what got you to where you are.
Well, a lot of it, again, the old running gun style. When Van Dam started that, I was doing that way before Van Dam. The North Hollywood Marine boat was set up so fast. I could cut the ignition, run to the front, have the trolling motor in the water as it set down, and make a cast at the same time. That's how I fished. I was a true run and gun fisherman, period. And and it worked. And and I was known for it. That's why I can't hardly get out of bed now, because all those up and downs and jumping on the front end and this and that. But I still try to run and gun, but it's in a much slower fashion. And I do sit down on occasion when I have to concentrate.
I think you've earned it for sure. I remember my question was, why braid to fluorocarbon or braid to mono leader for your jig? Where did that start?
Well, you can feel the jig better like that, I think. I'm not a big just braid. Ed loves to throw straight braid to the bait, and I've never done it. I actually think the fish can see it, and if you gotta throw the braid that we have to be able to see, then the fish can see it. So you put the leader on it and go with it. But one thing I will say is, all these guys out here using these 8 pound leaders. Heck with all that. I go on with it. If I'm gonna set on one, he's gonna be able to take it, or the line will be able to take it. So I'm usually 12. 12 is the least I will put on a leader in any circumstance.
Is it weird setting the hook with a jig on a spinning rod? I'm used to it.
It's crazy. It hurts my wrist sometimes because it just but here lately I've gotten pretty good at it. And I don't normally fish a jig. Like, in fact, I'm on Smith Mountain unless I'm fishing deep. If I'm fishing boat docks, I fish with a bait caster. I skip a jig. But in the situation where you got to move that jig and that spinning rod helps you with it. You just got to make sure the size of your hook is not too big. The missile bait size is about as much as you can get away with on the mini flip. That's about as far as you can go with it.
And setting up good drag ratio, like, it's a whole system, because again, smallmouth background on the Susquehanna, Shenandoah, Upper Potomac, stuff like that. Like, you're used to throwing little hair jigs for smallmouth, but you're right. When you smoke a 5-pounder, let's say, on a spinning rod like that, it can really do a number on your wrist if you don't. I don't know. There's a science to it about how you have the rod set up to where you're not going to break your wrist doing it. But it's getting more popular. It really is.
Well, with those smaller hooks, you lean into him on the hook set, as opposed to, reeling down and just, smacking him with a flipping stick. It's a different hook set. It's a pretty hook set.
It's true.
It's you look like you know what you're doing, even if you don't.
Oh man. Sir, I really appreciate you having on. I don't want to take up all your time today. Is there anything I can promote or anything we can give a shout out to?
Well, I'd like to thank Mr. Bates for making sure that I have all the baits I need, and he keeps me out on the road, and that's extremely important to me. Going back in time, Gary Marshall and Don Lee, they played a great important role. They believed in me when I was a kid, and I had to leave them when I achieved the status that I had, and they were always be in my memories. Ed Loughran also, he helped me get back and come back, and they're all a big support system. My wife has been extremely energetic about this. We formed a corporation together on the fishing. And,
oh, cool.
And so she's a big fan. She doesn't fish herself. She likes to write and read a book, as long as the water is not too rough. So mainly she stays home because she knows how I am. But I'd like to thank her, and I'd like to thank also the good Lord for giving me a chance to participate at this age, and to stay competitive. As long as I can stay competitive, I'm going to keep fishing. Now, I do have 3 grandchildren, 3 grandsons. I got 1 girl and 3 boys. The 3 boys, hopefully all are Division I bound. So here shortly, they're going to be playing ball, and they're going to need some help. So handling all 3 of them. So that's probably when I'll retire. But in the meantime, I'm going to keep trying to make the classic, and hopefully I can get in this regional in the top 3, or win it on the James and get in All-American. That would help me on my bucket list. I got a pretty big bucket list because I kind of had to stop in the middle. I wasn't able to keep fishing. I had to stop and come back. So
everything happens for a reason. And I think there's karma in the universe, and you stopping, and then you look at, well, it also led you to helping out those little kids in John and Ed, and the opportunities came there. And it's just fascinating when you look at it that way. It's like everything works out, everything happens for a reason.
Well, yeah, I would do it exactly the way I did it, because that was the only way it could be done properly and morally. And that's the hardest thing I ever had to do, was to walk away from fishing when I did. But now I have a second chance, and I'm so thankful for that.
Rick, thank you so much for coming on the show. Guys, as always, link in the episode description to everything that we talked about. Please go follow him on his exploits as he makes a run at the Classic and also at the All-American here. Good luck on the James River, sir. I really, really appreciate you coming on. And we will see you guys next time on Fishing the DMV. Bye. You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your host, Thomas Ahrens. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.